America uses 72% of the world's Ozempic. That's not a trend. That's a massive signal. It's like walking into a room where 3 out of 4 people have a headache and realizing the question isn't the painkiller, it's what's got a headache. I moved my family from California to Spain at 51. And once I lived here, the answer became so much clearer. Most American women are genuinely trying. They're reading labels. They're buying organic. They're showing up for their health. They're really trying every day, day after day. And their bodies are just still struggling in ways that don't make sense given how hard they are working. The system stopped working and they needed something that would. So stay with me, because the question most Ozempic content isn't asking is the one that actually changes the math. I'm Robin. I trained as a registered dietitian. I started out my career that way. So I spent years professionally reading American food labels, knowing what was in the food supply and advising people on how to navigate it. I then left the corporate world at 50. I moved my family to the Costa del Sol here in Spain at 51 with my husband and 2 teenagers. And what I found in the food supply here, it honestly made me understand for the first time why so many American bodies are struggling despite trying so hard. The question everyone is asking about Ozempic is, does it work? The question nobody is asking is, why does America need it at a rate the rest of the world doesn't? In Spain, Ozempic isn't even approved for weight loss. It's only approved for type 2 diabetes. Think about that. When 3/4 of a drug's global use is concentrated in one country, that's not a coincidence. That's a structural signal. And here's the part most people are missing. There are actually 2 structural problems, and Ozempic only addresses one of them. The first, what's actually in the food? I knew what was in American food, and I definitely bought organic. I did everything I was trained as a registered dietitian to do, but here's what I didn't fully reckon with. There were things I didn't even have the option to avoid. Let's get into it. Here's the difference between the US and the EU. In Europe, if a food's additive safety is uncertain, it is definitely banned until it's proven. Simple as that. In the United States, the system is called GRAS, generally regarded as safe. And here's the part that matters. It's not a government agency, not an independent body. The company selling you the product decides whether the ingredient in that product is safe. The EU has to prove something is safe before it enters the food supply. In the United States, harm has to be proven after the fact, and that proof has to reach the company before they are required to act. Think about what that means. The burden isn't on them to protect you. The burden is on the damage to become undeniable. So here's what that looks like on your shelf. Potassium bromate, banned in the EU, still in American bread. Banned in the EU, still in American fast food buns. BHA and BHT, banned in the EU, still in American cereals and chips. Titanium dioxide, banned in the EU, still in American candies. Titanium! In February 26, just a few months ago, the FDA ordered a new safety review of BHA. They cited, and I'm quoting directly, long-standing concerns that the food additive might cause cancer in humans. The EU banned it years ago. The FDA is reviewing it now. So you were trying, you were reading the labels, you were buying organic, but the baseline you were eating inside, and their system had already decided it is not safe to allow. So here's the part that doesn't get said. Not every ingredient that gets through even appears on your label. Processing aids, carryover additives, incidental additives used in manufacturing present in the final product, not always required to be disclosed. So you can read every label in that store and still not know everything that's in your food. When that baseline changes, most mornings, not everyone, but most of them, your body actually notices. And if this is the honest version you've been looking for, subscribe. That's how it finds the next woman who needs to hear it. The second structural problem is the one no drug on the market touches. So let me show what I mean. The part Ozempic cannot treat. When I said in an earlier video that I felt 10 pounds lighter, I wasn't talking about on the scale. I was talking about the ambient weight of American life. That constant noise, the alarm that resets every morning regardless of what happened yesterday. That low-grade hum of something being very wrong that you can't quite name and can't quite put down. So your body is carrying two things in America that isn't carrying in a different structure. What's in the food and the noise it's surrounded by. A drug can quiet one signal, but it can't remove that background noise. It's like turning down the volume on a fire alarm while the fire is still burning. So there is no prescription for that. You have to change the structure to put it down. What I know from my training, I have two teenagers. They grew up eating what I chose for them. I was that parent that didn't actually let them go to McDonald's that much. They really never had it except for with grandma. I knew what azodicarbonamide was. I thought I was protecting them. And inside the constraints of the American food supply, I was. What I understand now from getting them out of the American food supply system during their developmental years was one of the most important health decisions I've ever made as a parent. I'm not trying to be dramatic. I'm not an alarmist. I'm just being honest. 2 weeks after we were here, we went to a restaurant. My son ordered a plate of tomatoes, ate the entire thing, and they were so damn good. And he was so happy. That's not a small thing. That's what food tastes like when it hasn't been engineered. So, what the math actually says. Let's look at the numbers. 1 in 5 American women between 50 and 64 is currently taking a GLP-1 drug. 20% of American women. Not because they failed. Because the food supply is asking their metabolic system to process things it wasn't built for, and a drug is doing the compensating. In Spain, the drug just isn't approved for that. The food supply doesn't require the compensation. I'm definitely not here to tell you whether Ozempic is right for you. That's between you and your doctor. I'm here to ask the question nobody is asking. What if part of what your body is compensating for is the country you're living in? And what if the answer isn't a better program or a better prescription or more willpower? What if the answer is a different structure? What the Ozempic question nobody's asking looks like, it looks like 72% of the world's GLP use is in one country while the rest of the developed world doesn't have that same problem. Looks like the food supply with ingredients the EU decided weren't safe enough to allow sitting in your pantry right now. It looks like trying your hardest and still not knowing what was getting through. It looks like getting out and feeling the difference before you even had words for why. Not because Spain is perfect, because the structure is just different. Before it closes, go to your pantry. Pick up one thing. Look for azotocarbonamide, BHA, BHT, titanium dioxide. Don't expect to see everything. Some ingredients show up as a processing aids or carryover and aren't always required to be disclosed. But if you see one of these, you'll know what you're up against. Because once you see what's in the baseline, you can't really unsee it. And that's where this conversation starts. If you want to see what a different baseline looks like in real life, not policy, not theory, just an ordinary Tuesday, that's what my Spain Clarity Guide is for. You'll find the link in the description. In Spain, the difference shows up in ordinary life, not policy. In the grocery store, in the kitchen, in the way your son eats tomatoes without being asked. That's what a different baseline looks like when it's not theoretical. Leave me a comment. What ingredient did you find in your pantry? Drop it below. I read everything. I answer everyone. Subscribe if this is the honest version you've been looking for. That's how it finds the next woman that needs to hear it. See you next time.